Chapter 1. The Uninvited Guest. The Northern Wastes were not known for their hospitality. Shun Jian sat cross-legged on a frozen outcrop of granite, the wind howling around him like 1,000 vengeful spirits. His eyes were closed, his breathing steady, his cultivation base cycling qi through his meridians in the ancient, practiced rhythm he had maintained for decades. The bitter cold was nothing to him. He had long since transcended such mortal concerns. He was the Jian of the Northern Wastes, the sword that pierces heaven, the hero destined to stand against the coming darkness. He was also, at this precise moment, profoundly confused. Ugh, stop sitting so still. You're giving me a headache. Shun Jian's eyes snapped open. The voice had come from inside his head, not spoken aloud, not transmitted through spiritual sense. Simply there, as if his own thoughts had suddenly developed a distinctly unimpressed accent. He looked around the frozen landscape. Nothing, just ice, rock, and the distant silhouette of the demon-slaying mountains. Also, your qi circulation is off. The voice continued, conversational and lazy. You're going to pop a vein in your left pinky if you keep forcing it through that meridian like that. Whatever. Got any fish? Shun Jian looked down at his left hand. His pinky finger. The qi flow there was slightly turbulent. He hadn't noticed. Who speaks? His voice was low, controlled. The voice of a man who had faced down demon lords and survived. Show yourself. Silence. Then he yawned. An actual, mental yawn, complete with the psychic equivalent of stretching. Ugh, fine. I'm on your sword rack. Try not to stab me. I'm very delicate. Shun Jian turned. On his sword rack, the sacred stand that held his family heirloom, Frostbite, a blade that had drunk the blood of 1,000 monsters, there was a cat. It was small, smaller than his hand. Its fur was pure white, impossibly clean despite the frozen wasteland around them, and it was currently arranged in a loose, boneless sprawl across the pommel of his ancestral weapon. Its eyes were half-lidded, golden, and held the expression of a creature that had seen the universe and found it mostly boring. For a long moment, Shun Jian simply stared at it. The cat stared back. Then, in his mind, well, don't just stand there. I asked if you had fish. Is that not a normal greeting where you're from? Shun Jian rose slowly, his robes falling around him like frozen water. He approached the cat with the same caution he would approach a sleeping dragon. Spirit beasts were not uncommon in the cultivation world, but this one was different. He could sense no spiritual energy from it, no aura, no threat, just a small, fluffy creature with an attitude problem. You are a spirit beast, he said. It was not a question. I'm a cat, the voice corrected. Well, I was a cat. Now I'm this. A paw lifted, examined with mild distaste. Honestly, downgrade. My last body had thumbs. You have no idea how much you miss thumbs until you don't have them. Shun Jian's brow furrowed. You speak through a telepathic bond. I have not formed such a bond with you. Yeah, I don't know how that works either. I just woke up, and suddenly I could hear your brooding from a mile away. Very loud, by the way. Your internal monologue is incredibly dramatic. The darkness comes. The weight of destiny. Dude, chill. No one had ever called Shun Jian dude. No one had ever told him to chill. He was the Jian of the Northern Wastes. People tended to speak to him in hushed, reverent tones, if they could speak at all. I should remove you, he said slowly, his hand hovering near the cat. You are an unknown variable, a potential threat. The cat yawned, showing tiny fangs. Sure, go ahead. But if you kill me, you'll never know why Lu Yun is going to poison you next week. Shun Jian's hand froze. What did you say? Nothing. Forget it. Just cat things. Meow. The mental voice was dripping with sarcasm. Look, are we doing this or not? Because if you can keep me, I have conditions. Number 1, tuna. Fresh, preferably. Number 2, a warm spot near a window. Number 3, you stop waking me up with your brooding at 4 a.m. Deal? Shun Jian stared at the creature for a long, long moment. Lu Yun, the white moonlight, the beautiful healer who had saved his life 3 times, who looked at him with soft, adoring eyes, who everyone assumed would one day be his Tao partner. Poison him. It was absurd. It was impossible. And yet, The cat knew her name. "Who are you?" he whispered. The cat blinked slowly. Then, with the grace of a falling leaf, it rolled onto its back, presenting a fluffy white belly. "I'm hungry. Feed me first, then we'll talk. Or not talk. I might just nap. Honestly, the nap option is looking pretty good right now." Shun Jian, the Jian of the Northern Wastes, the hero destined to save the world, reached down with hands that had slain demons and picked up the smallest, softest creature he had ever held. It weighed nothing. It purred immediately, and for the first time in 37 years of grim determination, Shun Jian smiled. Milo, for his part, was having a very strange day. One moment, he had been an overworked office drone in Beijing, staring at a spreadsheet and dreaming of the can of premium tuna waiting for him in his apartment. The next, he was this, small, furry, trapped in a body that apparently belonged to some kind of magical cultivation world. He'd read enough web novels to understand the situation. Transmigration, some kind of system error, probably. He was supposed to be the hero or the villain's love interest or something dramatic. Instead, he was a cat owned by the broodingest man in the entire frozen north. And he was hungry. The man, Shun Jian, Milo had picked that up from his ridiculously loud thoughts, carried him into a cave that served as a temporary shelter. It was sparse, cold, and contained exactly 0 sources of tuna. "This is your home?" Milo asked, looking around with disdain. "It's a cave. You live in a cave. It is a temporary meditation retreat," Shun Jian said stiffly, setting Milo down on a pile of furs that were probably supposed to be luxurious but honestly looked like dead animals. "It's a cave, with dead animals on the floor. I've seen prison cells with better decor." Shun Jian's eye twitched. "You are remarkably opinionated for a creature the size of my palm." "I'm remarkably hungry for a creature the size of your palm. Priorities, sword guy. Focus." Shun Jian sighed. Actually sighed, a sound Milo suspected he didn't make often, and moved to his storage pouch. A moment later, he produced a piece of dried fish. Milo's nose twitched. His whiskers vibrated. His entire small body oriented toward the fish like a compass finding north. "Give." Shun Jian held it just out of reach. "Information first. You mentioned Lu Yun. Poison. Explain." Milo's golden eyes tracked the fish. His mind raced. He knew this story. He'd read enough Xianxia novels in his past life to recognize the tropes. The grim hero, the beautiful white moonlight who was secretly a spy, the loyal best friend who was actually a traitor. The whole thing was a minefield of betrayal. And Milo? Milo was just a cat who wanted to eat tuna and nap in sunbeams. He did not want to save the world. He did not want to be a hero. He wanted to be warm and full and left alone. But the fish was right there. "Fine," he said, mentally reaching for the fish with his paws. Shun Jian lifted it higher. Milo's paws waved uselessly in the air. He glared. "Lu Yun works for the Demon Lord. She's been feeding information to the enemy for years. She's going to try to poison you at the celebration banquet next week. Soul Eater venom. You'll be paralyzed, and she'll steal your cultivation manual. Happy? Now give me the fish." Shun Jian didn't move. His face had gone pale beneath its usual grim mask. "That is a serious accusation. It's a serious fish. Give." "How do you know this?" Milo stared at him. How did he explain web novels and tropes and the fact that this whole world was basically a story he'd read somewhere? He couldn't. So he did what any self-respecting cat would do. He sat down, wrapped his tail around his paws, and looked deeply, profoundly uninterested. "I'm a divine beast. I know things. It's in the job description. Now about that fish." Shun Jian's eyes narrowed, but after a long moment, he lowered the fish. Milo pounced. It was the best dried fish he'd ever tasted. Probably because he was a cat now, and cat taste buds were clearly superior. He demolished it in seconds, then looked up expectantly. "More? That was my last piece." Shun Jian was watching him with an expression Milo couldn't quite read. Curiosity? Suspicion? Something softer? "You'll have to wait until we reach the sect." Milo's ears flattened. "The sect?" "The Azure Flame sect. Lu Yun's sect, where the banquet will be held." Shun Jian's voice was carefully neutral. If what you say is true, I need to be prepared. Milo considered this. He considered the warm furs beneath him. He considered the lack of additional fish. Fine, but I'm napping first. Wake me when there's more food, and maybe a warmer spot. This cave is terrible. He curled into a tiny white ball, tucked his nose under his tail, and was asleep in seconds. Shunjian watched him for a long time. Outside, the wind howled. The darkness gathered. The weight of destiny pressed down. And Shunjian, for the first time in his life, felt like he wasn't carrying it alone. Chapter 2. The Poisoned Wine Gambit. The Azure Flame sect sprawled across a mountain valley like a jewel dropped into the snow. Pagodas rose toward the clouds, their roofs tiled in fired copper that gleamed like embers in the setting sun. Disciples in crimson and gold robes moved through the courtyards with practiced grace, their spiritual energy humming in harmonious patterns. It was beautiful. It was also, according to the tiny white cat currently napping in Shan Jian's robe pocket, full of people who wanted him dead. Too many people. Too loud. Turn down the noise. I cannot turn down the noise, Shan Jian murmured, walking through the main gate with the careful composure of a man who expected an attack at any moment. It is a sect, not a musical instrument. Your internal monologue is still too loud. You're thinking about formations and escape routes, and who's looking at you funny. It's giving me a headache. Shun Jian resisted the urge to reach into his pocket and pet the creature. Barely. The last week had been strange. He had traveled with a voice in his head that alternated between sarcastic commentary on the scenery and sudden, bored revelations about his future. The cat, Milo, it had finally deigned to give him a name, seemed to know everything. The Demon Lord's plans, the traitors in his midst, the best places to find wild game for Milo, obviously. And through it all, Milo slept, ate, demanded chin scratches, and slept some more. Shun Jian had never met anything so effortlessly unconcerned with the fate of the world. It was, he realized with some surprise, deeply refreshing. Shun Jian. A warm voice cut through his thoughts. He looked up. Lu Yun was walking toward him across the courtyard, her pale green robes flowing like spring water, her smile bright enough to melt the mountain snow. She was beautiful. Everyone said so. Delicate features, kind eyes, a gentle aura that made people want to trust her. Milo's voice echoed in his mind, flat and unimpressed. Yep, that's the poisoner. Can we get food now? I saw a servant carrying something that smelled like shrimp. Shun Jian kept his face neutral. Lu Yun, it is good to see you. And you. She reached him, her hand lifting as if to touch his arm, then falling back with practiced shyness. I heard you were returning from the northern wastes. I saved you a seat at the banquet tonight. The sect master has prepared a special celebration in honor of your recent victories. The special celebration includes poison. Milo supplied helpfully. She's going to pour it herself. Very romantic. Thank you, Shun Jian said. I would be honored. Lu Yun's smile widened. Something flickered in her eyes. Triumph, quickly hidden. Milo saw anyway. Told you. Also, there's definitely shrimp. I can smell it. Go toward the shrimp. Shun Jian excused himself as gracefully as possible and followed the scent of seafood, leaving Lu Yun standing in the courtyard with her perfect smile and her hidden poison. The banquet hall was a masterpiece of cultivation world architecture. Lanterns floated near the ceiling, their light warm and golden. Tables laden with delicacies stretched in long rows, and disciples chatted and laughed with the easy camaraderie of those who had never faced true danger. Shin Jian sat near the head of the main table, his expression politely attentive as the sect master droned on about recent achievements. His hands rested on his knees. His chi circulated calmly. Inside his robe pocket, Milo was having the time of his life. Shrimp. Is that abalone? Get the abalone. No, wait, go back to the shrimp. What's that red thing? Is it spicy? I like spicy. Get some. Shun Jian's hand moved with perfect discretion, slipping morsels of food from the table into his pocket. To anyone watching, he was simply adjusting his robe. In reality, he was feeding a tiny white cat who had somehow become the most important creature in his life. You seem distracted tonight, Brother Shun. Shinjian looked up. Feng Kuei sat across from him, his round face creased with concern. The best friend, the loyal brother-in-arms. The man who, according to Milo, had 300 demonic cultivators waiting in a valley to ambush him. Ah, there's the traitor, Milo said around a mouthful of shrimp. He's nervous. Look at his left eye. Twitching. Classic guilt twitch. Also, his chi is all wrong. He's suppressing his cultivation level. He's stronger than he looks. Shunjian's gaze flickered to Feng Kuei's left eye. It twitched. I am simply tired from the journey, Shunjian said. The northern wastes are demanding. Feng Kuei nodded sympathetically. Rest well tonight. Tomorrow, perhaps we could train together? I've been working on a new technique I'd like to show you. The technique is called lead you into an ambush and watch you die, Milo translated. Very popular in trader circles. Can you give me some of that steamed fish? The one with the ginger? Shunjian's hand moved. The banquet continued. The moment arrived. Lu Yin rose from her seat, a jade wine pot in her hands. She moved gracefully around the table, refilling cups, exchanging pleasant words with each disciple. Her path was taking her directly toward Shunjian. Showtime, Milo murmured. He had finished eating and was now tucked warmly against Shunjian's chest, one ear pressed to his heartbeat. Remember, don't drink it. Also act surprised. You're supposed to be the noble hero who trusts everyone. It'll be more dramatic if you look betrayed. Shunjian's lips twitched. The cat had a theatrical streak. Brother Shun. Lu Yun's voice was soft as silk. She stopped beside him, the wine pot tilted invitingly. May I? You honor me. She poured. The wine sparkled in the lantern light, golden and clear. Perfect. Lu Yun lifted the cup and offered it to him with both hands, her eyes shining. To your continued success. May the heavens always favor the righteous. Shunjian reached for the cup. Don't drink it. He paused, his fingers an inch from the jade. I mean it. Soul Eater venom. You'll be paralyzed in seconds. She's watching you with that creepy, hopeful expression. Just, I don't know, fake a stomach ache or something. Be creative. Shunjian's hand dropped. Lu Yun's expression flickered. Brother Shun. He pressed a hand to his stomach, his face carefully pained. Forgive me. The journey. My digestion has been unsettled. I fear the wine would not agree with me tonight. For just a moment, a fraction of a second, Lu Yun's perfect mask cracked. Frustration flashed in her eyes. Disappointment. Then it was gone, replaced by concern. Oh, you poor thing. Of course you must rest. Shall I have a healer look at you? She wants to heal you with more poison, Milo observed. Classic two-step. Also, that servant over there definitely has more steamed fish. Can we go get it? No need, Shunjian said, rising. I will retire early. Please, enjoy the remainder of the banquet. He bowed to the sect master, nodded to Feng Kuei, and walked away without looking back. Behind him, Lu Yun stood frozen, the poisoned wine growing cold in her hands. In his guest quarters, Shunjian sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the small white cat, now occupying his pillow. She really tried to poison me. Told you, I have known her for 7 years. And for 7 years, she's been reporting your every move to the Demon Lord. Very dedicated, very evil, very pretty. The whole package. Milo yawned, showing tiny fangs. Anyway, you're welcome. That'll be one chin scratch. Shunjian reached out automatically, his fingers finding the soft spot under Milo's jaw. The cat's eyes half closed, a purr rumbling through his tiny body. I owe you my life, Shunjian said quietly. You owe me approximately 12 pieces of steamed fish and a permanent spot on this pillow. We're even. No. Shunjian's voice was firm. We are not even. You have saved me from 2 traps already. You know things you should not know. You. He hesitated. You are the only one I can trust. Milo's purring paused. His golden eyes opened, meeting Shunjian's gaze. For a moment, something unreadable passed between them. Then Milo yawned again. Yeah, well, don't get used to it. I'm only helping because you feed me. If you stop feeding me, I'll let the Demon Lord have you. Shunjian smiled. A real smile, small but genuine. I will never stop feeding you. Good. Now turn off the lantern. I need my beauty sleep. And stop thinking so loud. Your gratitude is giving me a headache. Shun Jian lay back on the bed, careful not to disturb the small creature beside him. In the darkness, he could feel Milo's warmth, hear the soft rhythm of his breathing. For the first time in decades, he slept without nightmares. Chapter 3. The Ambush and a Nap. 3 days later, they stood at the entrance to the Whispering Valley. Feng Kuei had suggested this route. A shortcut, he'd called it, his round face beaming with friendly concern. It will shave 2 days off your journey to the southern sect. And I've heard the spiritual herbs there are particularly abundant this time of year. Shun Jian had smiled, nodded, and thanked him for the advice. Now he stood at the valley's mouth, his hand resting on Frostbite's hilt, and listened to the voice in his head. 300 demonic cultivators, Milo reported sleepily. He was tucked into his usual spot in Shun Jian's robe pocket, only the tip of his white nose visible, hiding in the rocks about half a mile in. They're not very good at hiding, by the way. I can hear them thinking about how they're going to kill you. Very loudly. It's annoying. How do you hear their thoughts? Shun Jian murmured, his eyes scanning the valley walls. I don't know. Cat magic? Divine beast powers? I'm a mystery. The point is, they're there. And they're expecting you to walk right into the middle of them, so Feng Kuei can spring the trap. Very dramatic. Very stupid. Shun Jian considered his options. A direct confrontation with 300 demonic cultivators was suicide, even for him. But if he knew where they were hidden, you're thinking about attacking anyway, aren't you? Milo's mental voice was flat. You're going to do something heroic and stupid. It is not stupid if it works. It's stupid if you die. And if you die, who's going to feed me? Have you considered that? Shun Jian paused. He had not, in fact, considered that. Exactly. So here's what you're going to do. They're expecting you to walk into the valley. So don't. Go around, climb up the east ridge, and attack from above. They'll be so busy waiting for you to show up that they won't notice until you're right on top of them. Shun Jian blinked. That is actually a sound tactical approach. I read a lot of strategy web novels in my past life. Sun Tzu, meet demonic cultivators. Now go. I'm going to nap. Wake me when it's over. If you get hurt, I'll be very annoyed. Shun Jian smiled and began to climb. The battle was brutal. Shun Jian descended on the demonic cultivators like a blade from heaven, Frostbite singing through the air with deadly precision. They were caught completely off guard, sprawled among the rocks, playing dice, arguing about who would get credit for his death. He cut through their first wave before they even had time to draw their weapons. But 300 was still 300. He fought for what felt like hours. His chi reserves drained. His arms ached. A wound opened on his side. Shallow, but painful. He kept fighting. And through it all, a small, warm weight rested against his chest, undisturbed. Milo slept. Shun Jian found it strangely comforting. The cat's complete unconcern told him something important. He was not going to die today. Milo would have warned him if death was imminent. Probably. Maybe. He hoped. When the last demonic cultivator fell, Shun Jian stood among the bodies, breathing hard, blood dripping from a dozen small wounds. The valley was silent. He reached into his pocket. Milo was curled in a tiny ball, one paw twitching gently, completely, utterly asleep. Shun Jian laughed, a raw, exhausted sound that echoed off the valley walls. Wake up, he said softly. It's over. 5 more minutes. There's a stream nearby. I can wash your fur if you want. One golden eye cracked open. Fine, but you carry me. I'm not walking. Shun Jian carefully lifted the tiny cat from his pocket and cradled him in both hands. Milo stretched, yawned, and settled back in a sleep within seconds. The Jian of the northern wastes, covered in blood and victory, walked toward the stream with more gentleness in his hands than he had shown anything in his entire life. Chapter 4. The Bond Strengthens. Weeks passed. Spring arrived in the cultivation world, melting the mountain snow and bringing color back to the valleys. Shun Jian traveled from sect to sect, following the threads of destiny that would eventually lead him to the Demon Lord. And everywhere he went, a small white cat went with him. The change was subtle at first. Shunjian found himself talking aloud more often. Not because Milo couldn't hear him mentally, the bond was always there, but because he liked the sound of his own voice addressing the small creature. He liked the way Milo's ears twitched when he spoke, the way those golden eyes would crack open at the sound of his name. Look, Milo, spiritual flowers. They bloom only once a century. Pretty. Can we eat them? No, they are poisonous. Then why did you show me? Because they are beautiful. A pause. Then, softly, they are. Okay, you can keep looking. I'll be here. The first incident happened at the Crimson Crane sect. An elder, a pompous man with too much gold on his robes and too little sense in his head, approached Shunjian during a diplomatic gathering. His eyes fixed on Milo, who was lounging on Shunjian's shoulder, washing one paw with studied indifference. "What a charming little beast," the elder exclaimed, reaching out. "May I?" Shunjian moved. One moment, the elder's hand was inches from Milo's fur. The next, Frostbite's blade rested against his throat, cold and absolute. "No," Shunjian said. The elder froze. The gathered disciples froze. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Shunjian's voice was soft, calm, and utterly terrifying. "The divine beast does not wish to be touched." "I don't actually care," Milo offered. "He can touch me. Whatever. But this is kind of hot. So keep going." Shunjian's eye twitched, but he didn't move the blade. The elder retreated, hands raised, face pale. Of course, forgive my impertinence." Shunjian sheathed his sword and walked away, Milo still perched on his shoulder, looking deeply unimpressed with the entire affair. Later, in their private quarters, Shunjian sat on the bed and stared at his hands. "I should not have done that," he said quietly. "It was an overreaction. He meant no harm. He meant to touch me without asking. That's harm enough. He is an elder of an allied sect. I may have created a diplomatic incident. Good. Maybe they'll think twice before grabbing random divine beasts." Shunjian was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he reached out and stroked Milo's fur. The cat leaned into the touch, purring. "What?" Shunjian asked. "Why do I feel this way? I have never been protective of anything. Not since I was a child." Milo's purring continued. His golden eyes were half closed. "You're lonely," he said simply. "You've been lonely your whole life. And now you're not." Shunjian's hand stilled. "I'm not exactly a people person either," Milo continued. "In my last life, I worked in an office. 40 hours a week, minimum, and no one ever talked to me unless they needed something. I went home to an empty apartment and ate dinner alone every night. So I get it. Loneliness sucks. You were alone. I had a cat. Does that count? I do not know. Does it?" Milo considered. "Maybe. She was a good cat. Grumpy. Hated everyone. But she'd sit on my lap while I worked, and that was nice. I miss her." Shunjian lifted Milo carefully, bringing him closer to his chest. The cat allowed it, settling against his heartbeat with a small sigh. "I will never let you be alone," Shunjian said quietly. "Not while I draw breath." Dramatic. "But thanks. Same, I guess." They sat like that for a long time, the hero and his cat, while the night deepened around them and the stars wheeled overhead. Chapter 5. The Price of a Snack. The crisis came without warning. Demonic energy surged from the southern wastes, a tide of corruption that threatened to overwhelm the mortal kingdoms. The sect leaders gathered in emergency council, their faces grim, their arguments immediate and contradictory. The East Pass must be fortified. No, the Western Plains are more vulnerable. We should attack now, before they gather strength. We should retreat and consolidate our forces. Shunjian stood at the edge of the gathering, listening to the chaos, saying nothing. In his arms, Milo was unusually alert, ears forward, golden eyes tracking the debate with an expression that could only be described as judgmental. "They're all wrong," he said finally. "Every single one of them." Shunjian's eyebrows rose. "Oh, the Demon Lord isn't going through the East Pass. He's not going through the Western Plains. He's going to attack the capital directly through the sunken swamp. It's the one route no one expects because it's a disgusting swamp full of poisonous gas and flesh-eating leeches. but he's been building immunity for months. Shun Jian processed this. And the formations they're planning, the grand formation they want to use, the one that requires all 12 sect masters to coordinate their chi, it has a fatal flaw. The fire trigram and water trigram are reversed in the original text. If they activate it as written, they'll incinerate themselves. How do you know this? A pause. Then, almost sheepishly, I'm hungry. Shun Jian stared at him. Specifically, I'm hungry for the golden-scaled carp from the sect master's private pond. The one that glows. I've been dreaming about it for weeks. It's probably really tasty. You are telling me this information, Shun Jian said slowly, because you want a fish. Not just any fish. A legendary fish. A fish that has been soaking up spiritual energy for 300 years. A fish that is probably delicious. Milo's golden eyes were wide, pleading. I helped you with the poison. I helped you with the ambush. I'm helping you now. I just want one fish. Is that too much to ask? Shun Jian looked at the cat in his arms. He looked at the arguing sect masters. He looked toward the direction of the sect master's private pond, where a 300-year-old carp was probably swimming in blissful ignorance. Then he walked forward and interrupted the council. Forgive me, he said, his voice cutting through the chaos. I have received a divine revelation. The sect masters turned to stare at him. Shun Jian, his face utterly serious, began to explain. The battle plan was met with ridicule at first. The sunken swamp? Preposterous. Reverse the fire and water trigrams? That would ruin the formation entirely. But then an elder, the same elder who had witnessed Shun Jian's skill in the Whispering Valley, stepped forward. The Jian of the Northern Wastes does not speak without reason, and if his divine beast has revealed this. He looked at Milo, who yawned. Then perhaps we should listen. The plan was adopted. It worked perfectly. The Demon Lord's forces were caught completely off guard, emerging from the sunken swamp to find the combined armies of the cultivation world waiting for them. The grand formation activated without a hitch, fire and water working in harmony instead of opposition. The Demon Lord retreated in disarray, his plans in ruins. In that night, Shun Jian crept through the shadows toward the sect master's private pond. The golden-scaled carp was beautiful. It swam in lazy circles, its scales shimmering with stored spiritual energy, completely unaware that its 300-year existence was about to end. Shun Jian caught it with one perfect move, fast, clean, respectful. He carried it back to their quarters in a bucket of water. Milo's eyes went wide. His pupils dilated. His entire small body began to tremble with desire. Is that the golden-scaled carp? As promised. Give. Shun Jian cooked it carefully, using techniques he had learned in his youth, before the weight of destiny had crushed all joy from his life. When it was done, flaky, golden, steaming with spiritual energy, he placed it on a plate and set it before Milo. The cat demolished it. He ate like a creature possessed, like a starving wolf, like someone who had waited 300 years for this exact moment. When he finished, he licked the plate clean, then his paws, then his whiskers, then collapsed onto his side with a blissful sigh. Worth it, he murmured. So worth it. I love you. I mean that. I genuinely love you. Shun Jian's heart stuttered. Before he could respond, a wave of spiritual energy pulsed through the room. It came from Milo, from the accumulated power of the golden-scaled carp, activating something deep within his divine beast core. The cat began to glow. Shun Jian watched, frozen, as the small white form shifted and grew. Fur receded, limbs lengthened. The glow intensified, then faded. And on the bed, where a cat had been, a man now lay. He was beautiful. Soft black hair spilled across the pillow. Golden eyes, still half-lidded with satisfaction, blinked slowly. Pale skin, delicate features, a small pout on perfectly shaped lips. He was naked, unashamed, and looking directly at Shun Jian with an expression of mild annoyance. Ugh, finally, the man said, his voice now external, warm, slightly husky, exactly as Shun Jian had always imagined it. That form was cramped. Okay, serious warrior. I'm still tired. Scoot over. Shun Jian didn't move. He couldn't move. Milo, Milo was a man. A beautiful, naked, incredibly relaxed man who was currently patting the bed beside him with obvious impatience. Well, are you going to stare all night, or are you going to sleep? I need my beauty rest. And you're warm. I can tell from here. Shun Jian's voice, when it finally emerged, was barely a whisper. You're human. Technically, I'm a spirit beast who can take human form. But yes, basically. Now scoot. Shun Jian scooted. Milo immediately curled against him, warm and solid and real, and was asleep in seconds. Shun Jian lay awake all night, his arm around a man he had thought was a cat, his heart racing, his mind spinning with possibilities he had never allowed himself to imagine. Chapter 6. The Transformation. Morning brought clarity and awkwardness. Shun Jian woke to find Milo still pressed against him, one arm thrown across his chest, face buried in the curve of his neck. Soft breath warmed his skin. Dark lashes rested against pale cheeks. Shun Jian did not move. He was the Jian of the Northern Wastes. He had faced demon lords and survived. He had walked into certain death and walked out again. He was brave, resolute, unshakable. He was absolutely terrified of waking the man in his arms. You're thinking very loudly again. The mental voice was back, but now it was accompanied by physical movement, Milo stretching against him like a cat, which Shun Jian supposed he still partly was. Good morning, Shun Jian said carefully. Morning. Is there food? I do not know. I have not checked. Then check. I'm hungry. Being human takes energy. Shun Jian gently extracted himself from Milo's grip and went to find food. When he returned with a tray of fresh fruits and steamed buns, Milo was sitting up in bed, the blanket pulled around his waist, looking rumpled and soft and entirely too appealing. He took the tray without comment and began to eat. Shun Jian sat on the edge of the bed and watched. The dynamic was different now. The telepathic bond was still there. He could feel Milo's contentment, his satisfaction with the food, his general laziness. But now, there was also the physical reality of him. The way his lips curved around a bun. The way his throat moved when he swallowed. The way his golden eyes flickered up to meet Shun Jian's, knowing and amused. You're staring. I apologize. Don't. I'm very stareable. It's fine. Shun Jian's face heated. I did not mean to make you uncomfortable. Milo set down the bun and tilted his head, studying him. Are you uncomfortable? No. Liar. Your heart rate just spiked. I can feel it through the bond. Shun Jian had no response to that. Milo smiled. A real smile, lazy and warm. Look, I get it. I was a cat yesterday. Now I'm a person. It's weird, but I'm still me. I still want tuna and naps and chin scratches. The only difference is that now I can scratch my own chin. He demonstrated, scratching his jaw with obvious satisfaction. Shun Jian's lips twitched. Also, Milo continued, now I can do this. He leaned forward and pressed his lips to Shun Jian's. It was brief, soft, a question more than a statement. When he pulled back, his golden eyes were serious. I've been wanting to do that for a while, even when I was a cat. Is that weird? Shun Jian's heart was pounding. His mind was blank. Every thought he'd ever had been replaced by the memory of Milo's lips on his. No, he managed. It is not weird. Good, because I'd like to do it again. But first, finish your staring. I can tell you're not done. Shun Jian stared. Milo ate his breakfast. And for the first time in his life, Shun Jian felt like maybe, just maybe, destiny wasn't such a burden after all. Chapter 7. The Awkward Adjustment. The days that followed were strange and wonderful. Milo adapted to his human form with the same lazy grace he'd shown as a cat. He walked around Shun Jian's quarters in nothing but a robe that kept falling off one shoulder. He draped himself across furniture like he was posing for a painting. He stole Shun Jian's pillow, his blankets, his favorite meditation spot. But more than that, he touched. A hand on Shun Jian's arm during conversations. A head on his shoulder during quiet evenings. A body pressed against his during sleep, warm and trusting in there. Shun Jian, who had gone decades without physical contact, was overwhelmed. He wanted to touch back. He wanted to hold, to stroke, to explore. But he didn't know how. The only intimacy he'd ever known was violence, the kiss of blades, the grip of battle. Gentle touch was foreign territory. Milo seemed to understand. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset, Milo took Shun Jian's hand and placed it on his own thigh. "You can touch me," he said quietly. "I want you to." Shun Jian's hand trembled. "I do not wish to presume." "You're not presuming. I'm telling you. Touch me, please." Slowly, carefully, Shun Jian moved his hand up Milo's thigh, across his hip, resting finally at his waist where the robe gaped open. Milo shivered. "See? Not weird. Good, actually. Very good." Shun Jian leaned in and kissed him, properly this time, with intent and desire and all the longing he'd been suppressing for weeks. Milo melted into him, arms wrapping around his neck, body pressing close. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Milo smiled. "Okay, so, that was worth waiting for." "Yes," Shun Jian agreed, his voice rough. "It was, but I'm still hungry. Can we get dinner first? And more of that." Shun Jian laughed, a real laugh, warm and full. "Anything you want." "Good answer." Chapter 8. The Future is Warm. The final confrontation with the Demon Lord was scheduled for dawn. Shun Jian stood at the window of their quarters, watching the stars fade, his hand resting on Frostbite's hilt. In the bed behind him, Milo was finally awake, sitting cross-legged, blankets pulled around him, golden eyes fixed on Shun Jian's back. "You're nervous." "I am prepared." "Same thing with you." Milo rose and padded across the room, wrapping his arms around Shun Jian from behind. His chin rested on Shun Jian's shoulder. His warmth seeped through the layers of robes. "Tell me the plan." "Attack at dawn. Draw his forces." You revealed his weakness, the meridian point below his left ribs. "One strike there will shatter his core." "And after?" Shun Jian was silent for a moment. "After, I return to you." "Good. Because if you die, I'll be very annoyed. And hungry. And alone." Milo's arms tightened. "I don't want to be alone again." Shun Jian turned in his embrace, cupping Milo's face in his hands. "You will never be alone. I swear it." Milo looked at him. This serious, grim warrior who had become his whole world. The man who fed him tuna and let him nap and looked at him like he was precious. The man who had trusted a sarcastic cat and found his heart in the process. "I love you," Milo said aloud, his voice soft. "I know I say it casually. I know I'm lazy and sarcastic and probably not what you expected. But I mean it. I love you." Shun Jian kissed him. It was deep and slow and full of promises. When they broke apart, Shun Jian's forehead rested against Milo's, their breath mingling. "I love you too," he whispered. "My divine beast. My heart. My home." Milo smiled, genuine, warm, utterly unlike his usual lazy expression. "Go," he said mentally. "Defeat the bad guy. I'll be here, napping. But when you get back, I expect a really, really good dinner. And maybe some more of that." He gestured vaguely at the space between them. Shun Jian laughed. He left to face his destiny, the voice of his lover, sarcastic, lazy, and full of love, echoing in his mind, guiding him home. The battle was fierce. The Demon Lord was everything the stories said, terrifying, powerful, ancient. But he was also, thanks to Milo, predictable. Every move he made, Shun Jian anticipated. Every attack he dodged. Every opening he exploited. And when the moment came, when the Demon Lord's guard dropped for just an instant, Shun Jian struck. Frostbite pierced the meridian below the left ribs. The Demon Lord screamed. Light exploded outward. Power shattered, and the darkness that had threatened the cultivation world for 1,000 years crumbled to dust. Shun Jian stood among the ruins, breathing hard, and felt a familiar warmth in his mind. "Did you get him?" "Yes." "Good. Hurry back. I found a new sunny spot by the window, but it's not as warm without you." Shun Jian smiled and began the journey home. He returned at sunset. Milo was exactly where he'd promised, curled up in a patch of golden light by the window, human-shaped but cat-like in his boneless sprawl. His eyes were closed, his breathing slow, one hand dangling off the edge of the cushion. Shun Jian crossed the room silently, and knelt beside him. "I'm home," he said softly. One golden eye cracked open. A slow smile spread across Milo's face. "About time. I'm hungry." Shun Jian laughed and gathered him into his arms, holding him close. "Dinner first," he murmured against Milo's hair. "Then more of that." "Good answer." They stayed there as the sun set, wrapped in each other. The weight of destiny finally lifted. Outside, the world was safe. Inside, two souls who had found each other in the strangest of ways held on and never let go.